Which of your companies has started to experimenting with AI? Perfect, like our studies, 80%. And now keep your hand up if this has already gone into production. 20%. Great, guys, we could speed up this process of making studies so much faster. This is what we see across the globe, right? 80% of companies have started this year playing around. All of us love these proof of concepts, right? But actually very close to 20% of them are just going into production, if at all. And this also varies by industries. Today I want to talk about what we've learned over the past 2,000 engagements we've run with clients. Me personally, I've specialized in the enterprise adoption of AI in the last 6 years. And I was also part of defining what we as IBM do in the area of AI governance. And now also how we, for example, what we did to comply with the European AI Act. So 3 topics I want to talk about, and in the end of the day you should have for each of these 3 topics 3 questions you keep in mind when you start adopting AI in your enterprise. You all know these numbers, right? We will probably add another Germany with AI in terms of GDP to the world. We'll make knowledge workers up to 70% quicker. And by 2026, you guys and all of us, we should speed up that we actually bring this all into production to make this happen. From my perspective, what we'll see next year, and which is also based on the engagements we currently run and also the benchmarks we are driving, is the topic of openness. And when we think about AI, that means open data, open weights, and open license. What do I mean by that? When you currently look at the large proprietary model providers, most of them are not really showing you what data is inside. And based on that, you also see large lawsuits currently in the US. And then there are some model providers on the market who provide you the full data. And even if you ask us, you will even get the full data lineage and the process we have gone through to create our open source Granite models. In that case, here is a short excerpt of what we've used for the latest model, which is completely open source, and you can see that up in the web. So first question, do you know exactly which data is in your model? Because that might bring you certain liabilities, especially if the data was used which is copyrighted. And also if data is collected from you, from your enterprise when you use it. This is why in any case you need to give your employees an AI playground. Even if you don't know what the use case is, employees will come up with the right use cases and help themselves. But otherwise, if you don't have a playground which is safe in your company, be that wherever, look if the data is safe. But otherwise they will use ChatGPT and other free versions, and therefore your data is not safe. Second question, can you look inside of the model and can you evaluate the model? Most also startups currently are just GPT wrappers. We will need to get, as said before, differentiated value, and that also means that we have to be able to download the model, look inside the model, evaluate what's inside of there, and also open it up to research so we can actually trust the black box. Third question on openness is the topic of license. Do you actually have full commercial rights when you use a certain LLM? Or do you, for example, also need to pay for a commercial license? Currently, I also see that from a lot of universities. They get public money, they develop AI models, they give it back open, but only for research use. So this also doesn't really help small enterprises when adopting these models, because they then have to reach out separately or make a deal with a university. From my perspective, we need more competition in the area of open source. And also IBM decided to completely open source the model, so you can download that right now on your smartphone on Hugging Face. And this is why we also invested into Hugging Face as a company, because we believe that this is the future of AI. And it's interesting also to see the trend, because what we also believe is that in the future there's not much value which is gained out of the actual money, but rather on the infrastructure and the middle layer part when we start introducing AI to our enterprise software which we have, right? And in the future, or already next year, we don't see the focus on just having an LLM to chat with. Obviously everybody knows now the use case with chat with your documents, but we want to be able to get data out from our SAP system. We wanted to analyze the Salesforce data, so it tells me which email I should write to which of my clients. And this is where we see this connectedness, and this is where we focus on. And again, open does not mean open in the area of license, because for example Meta, where we are very closely working on, it's open weights, and they have their own license type, which gives you a certain type of limits in what you can use. For example, specifically when you want to use it in defense purposes, you need to have special approval. And this is different with actual open source licenses, for example with Apache 2. but at least better than closed source providers. Next topic is AI needs to be trusted. We need to be trusted with how we use AI, what processes we put in place to ensure trustworthiness in our enterprise. And third, how we can ensure that we have performance in these AI systems, because these are exactly currently the blockers we have towards adoption in productive use cases, because we cannot be sure currently with most AI implementations if they actually perform well or if they start harassing our employees and customers. So, use. The good thing is now, a lot of people are hating on the EU AI Act, but finally at least we have some rules in there, so it's not a guessing game anymore. We concretely know what is allowed and what's not. And then specifically for our friends in banking and insurance, they oftentimes, or even public and education, they can fall with their core business easily into the area of high risk. And there you have a clear set of rules of what you need to do to be compliant. And the good message is there are ways to automate that, so you don't need 50 new people in compliance. But very important for you to know, if you have customers in the EU, employees in the EU, or outputs of the AI which you're using in Switzerland is used in the EU, you need to be compliant with it. So it's not just for European unions, it's basically an entry ticket into the common market. And it's pretty similar to medical standards. What's important for you as the first deadline, because it went active into force in August, the first deadline is in February next year, where you basically need to be compliant with not having unacceptable risk. And second, you need to be able to ensure that your clients have proper AI training. This is, I guess, where 90% of the market would fail. And let's see how they will enforce that. But maybe you should start doing some online courses on Coursera. High risk, again, is important. We need risk management, we need transparency. But besides regulation, it's also important that we have our own standards and own ethics, which might be different from each to each country and also from each company as well. And this is why we decided in 2020, we have seen AI was used for mass surveillance, specifically, for example, during Black Lives Matter. The AI systems were not that good, specifically when you want to search one person in 20,000 people. The wrong people got arrested. We said that's a lot of money we make with that, but it's not a good cause. So we went out of that, and then a lot of other companies followed, and you need to ensure that you have your own standards defined. You probably already have some sort of ethics or governance board, and you should integrate AI expertise into that. Level 2, do you have the right process in place to secure both speed and compliance, right? It's not either or, you need to ensure both. If you don't ensure compliance, you will get a huge fine or you will lose your reputation. If you don't have speed, you lose to competition. So this is why we need to automate AI governance. Here's a screenshot of how we do that ourselves also with clients in watsonx. Basically, the employee in the company who wants to do the AI use cases answers a couple of questions. We evaluate based on that the risk for the EU AI Act, and then therefore they know what they need to do next. Level 3 is analyzing AI performance. We automatically need to connect to where the models are, be that in Azure OpenAI, be that in AWS SageMaker, be that on-prem with a Llama model, or with watsonx with the Mistral model. We need to be able to have one evaluation framework for all of these clouds and all of our infrastructures. And what we've also seen is also small models, when we fix them for a right use case, and not even fine-tune, but just tweak them for the use case. There is something in between called the InstructLab method, which we've also open sourced, where we can have significant performance additions, but with way smaller models. I think earlier it was also talked about the sustainability of AI, and part of sustainability is also using small specialized models for that, because we save up to 90% of cost. How does that come? Less GPU, less energy. A small model can run on one NVIDIA A40S. Even a Mistral large model runs on 8 of them, and not even, I think, A40S, but A100. And then you directly have like 10 or even 15 times the cost of running that model for the same use case. Last trend I see is the sovereignty, and I don't think we talk often enough about it, and I think there are also a lot of players in the market who write that they are sovereign, but they are really not. And also we are not a sovereign choice by every deployment we have, and I will tell you why. The first thing is sovereign location, right? At least it should be a data center when you have not your own data center, which is in the European Union, or specifically for Swiss company in Switzerland, right? So you need your AI to be where your data is. Ideally, it's not leaving the country. This is the first thing. And You know, if there is a solution which you want to bring into your company and the only way is to consume that via, I don't know, a cloud in Dallas, then maybe you should overthink that choice. The second topic is then not am I in the country, but do I have the flexibility to choose tomorrow to go into another infrastructure? So do I have a modular AI stack which enables me to make a decision? Let's say I have a large cloud provider and they are in Switzerland. Next year they make the price increase of 20%. Can you say tomorrow I change, or would you need to change the whole architecture of your enterprise AI solution? Ideally you have a solution where you can plug and play. You say I'm agnostic of where it runs. Tomorrow it can run in my own data center, the next day it can run with a local data center or another cloud. And this is what we basically do with What's Next. We say we need to be agnostic from the infrastructure. You can get the same GPUs every day. Maybe you get next year another deal with another cloud provider, or you want to go on-prem. Specifically the topic of on-prem, we will go into the last thing. This is also my last slide, is around autonomy. In the end of the day, we are living in uncertain times. Who would have thought that the US is threatening us with leaving NATO, right? So, you know, I probably should not say more from an American company, but in the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, who has the red button to stop your operation, right? Do you have that, or are you in another data center? And if you want to be actually autonomous, you need to ensure that at least for a backup solution or for the most critical use cases in data, you have the capabilities to run AI on your own premises. And this might not maybe be relevant for, I don't know, a sneaker shop, but if you are a bank, if you are an insurance, if you are a state, if you are an agency, if you are the military, if you are a police, this is important. And don't underestimate that. This is actually a quick way, specifically also for public sector and banking, to actually apply AI, and this is what we have done. We have done that with the German banking regulator FINMA. They have just recently presented that, what we have done with them, with that specific box, over the past year, because this enables them to go through no data checks, or no security check, basically, that it goes outside of it's literally in the office. And so you bring hundreds of thousands of documents in there, you process it with open source AI models, nobody else has it, and even the military in Austria, for example, uses that. They have an air-gapped installation, no connection to the internet, you can bring in secret data, and you can generate insights out of that. We are doing similar projects now in Switzerland as well. I think especially in highly regulated companies, or those who are interested in keeping their data safe, that might be an option. And interestingly, in such a box you don't pay for tokens, but you just basically license, and there are several players who do that way, it's not just us. But when you do it on-prem, you have your own graphic cards, you can look into eBay, one L40S costs $7,000, you can run a small 8 billion LLM just on one GPU, and you can get started today with running your own AI on your own premises. This is what I call autonomy at the end of the day. With that, thank you very much. If you're happy to start being ready for next year, then let's connect. And otherwise, happy building with AI.